Hey everybody, hope that you are well. Hope that all things are going pretty well with you given these very difficult times. So, a couple of weeks ago, I started a project where I was going to provide photos to students who lost their graduation and other senior activities due to the current pandemic that's going on. And so here are some of the photos from those shoots. And I wanted just to take you through my editing process a little bit. So all the images were shot with the Sony a7R III. We used a 85mm 1.4 G Master lens. This image was taken at 1/1000th of a second at f2.5 at ISO 200. So obviously, I probably should have shot this one at 1/500th of a second. So I am going to start with fixing the exposure. So here we go. We're going to take it up. The levels a little bit at a time there. All right. Now that exposure seems to be pretty good. I'm going to add some. All right. We're going to add a little bit of black in there for contrast. We're going to play with the shadows a little bit. All right. So that exposure looks pretty good to me. We're going to add some texture, just kind of some of the basic things that I do. Texture and clarity. Don't want to get too crazy on those. We're going to add some color. We're going to make those greens pop a little bit. Make that blue in one of the tassels pop. And let's take a look. One other thing we want to do is we want to make sure we click those profiles. That's one thing a lot of times will miss if I'm not thinking about it. And so here we go. This photo is the before. This is the after. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Moving on to the next one. This one was shot at 1/320th of a second, f2.5, ISO 200. So we're going to start with, again, adding a little bit of exposure. I think that's good. The shadows are fine. We're going to bring the highlights down just because that hat is directing a lot of light into her face. So we're going to try to bring that down a little bit. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And we're going to add a little black for the contrast. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the texture, about the same that we've done thus far. We're going to add some color here. We're going to I do really like contrasty saturated photos. So here we go with the green and blue just to give it that nice pop color there. Add just a tad bit more exposure there. Sometimes you have to play with things to get it where you want it. Alright. I think that looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the before and after. Here's the before. Here's the after. Not too big of a change, but you do see that kind of pop in the color there. Moving on. We have this image here. This was shot at 1/125 of a second at f3.2. You can already see that the kid, this student, is in a little bit of a shadow. Very likely I shot this under a tree, and the background was giving a lot of light. So just to compensate for that, I kind of closed down the aperture to close it down to 3.2. So we're going to start with the exposure and try to play with that a little bit. That seems to be a good one. To help deal with the exposure, I like to work with the shadows a little bit. and that brings a little bit more light onto his face. But at the same time, you can lose a little contrast. So I use the black here to put that back and give me that more contrasty look. So we're going to add just a tad bit more exposure there. Bring down some of the highlights a little bit. All right, I think we got it at a good place right there. About there looks good. All right, so we're going to add some additional texture and clarity. All right, we're going to go down and add our profiles in, and we're going to play with the color a little bit. We want to just bring those greens out, especially in this cap. And we're going to bring the blues on his shirt. This is a checkered shirt here, so we want to bring those blues out a little bit. Not too aggressive, but just have them pop in the image a little bit. And there we go. That looks pretty good. So just a little bit more exposure there. All right. All right, looks pretty good. All right, I like that. Here is our final image. This is probably the best lit one. The conditions for this shot were very good. We were under a bridge. There was a lot of light outside. So the light just hit his face. All that's natural light. No strobes or anything were used with this particular image. So just a little bit of exposure. We're gonna put some contrast in there. Add some texture. We're also going to add some green just to highlight those a little bit. And add our profiles. So that looks very good. So there we go. Here is the before and after. So this is about where my process usually takes me. We like the contrast. We like to make sure we have some nice contrast in there, and like to play with those colors a little bit of more on the saturated side. So thank you for watching. Please stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.